Hey everyone, welcome to Season 2 of the Big Tier List, where I tier every single character of every single Fire Emblem game. This series has been on break for a long while, but I'm happy to announce that it is returning. For those of you who don't know or forgot how it works, for these videos, my Patreons give me characters to put on a tier list, and I make a ridiculously long video where I talk about how useful these characters are as a way to thank them for their support. Without my Patreons, I would not have the money to be able to make videos every day. I love making videos, but ad revenue and stream donations are not enough to spend all this time doing recording and editing, collaborating, doing preparations, doing research, writing scripts, and so on. Without their help, it would be really hard to justify doing all this while still paying my bills and, buying things like equipment. So thanks a lot. And I really cannot thank these people enough for enabling me to do what I'd love to do on a daily basis. Now, over the last couple months, I've gotten to know a couple of my Patreons a lot better, playing things like Secret Hitler with them, and I just want to say it's been really great hanging out with you all. If you too would like to support me, and you can afford to, there is a link to my Patreon in the description. Every little bit helps, but just remember, your own needs come first. If you ever feel like you don't want to support me anymore, that's fine. Just, you can unsubscribe anytime. Now, for today's video, you might have noticed that these funky FE1 portraits are on screen, and that's because for our grand return, we're going to be doing an Archanean special. I was looking at this wonderful spreadsheet made by Beku, one of my Patreons, and it shows that the Archanean tier lists are by far the least complete ones. So, for this one, I made a special deal. If you submit an Archanean character, and you can only submit Archanean characters, I will tier them for every game that they're in. That means that they'll be tiered for FE1, the OG Shadow Dragon, FE3, Mystery of the Emblem, FE11, Shadow Dragon, the remake, and FE12, New Mystery of the Emblem, the remake of FE3 Book 2. As far as they haven't been tiered already, of course. Some of them are already on there because the other lists for Archanean are more complete. That is going to be a lot of work that will probably take me multiple videos, but that's okay because I'm not in a hurry. So we're going to get started with the FE1 list, which is almost as incomplete as it gets. As far as I could tell, only Roger has been submitted so far, but that's good because it allows us to catch up a bit. Now, let's go over who has been submitted because these FE1 portraits, they sure look alike sometimes. Modi submitted Barst. Scott submitted Mathis, who is in almost every game and still untiered for most of these. Hala and Katja were submitted by Blue Caterade. Daniela submitted Norn. Patreon Potato submitted Setguard. P. Vladias submitted Sita and Marth, and this is FE1 is actually the only games where they haven't been tiered yet. Same goes for Jaeger, who was submitted by Curaçao, new S tier Patreon. Thank you for joining. Sheena also submitted by Curaçao. I'm really good at butchering names. You're gonna find that in every scripted video I make. Power Spriter submitted Narvar and Zane. Giant Corkscrew submitted Siryu and Kane. Leather Shield Merc submitted Abel. Torchart submitted Ogma. Alexis submitted Katarina. Lucas submitted Board. Boots or Boots submitted Linde and Bantu. Omega submitted Tiki and Goto. Mani submitted Beck. Jonathan submitted Drought and Harden. Are we still on the right track? Yeah, we're still on the right track. Okay, because sometimes this tier list will omit random characters that I put in there before just to fuck with me. Danielle submitted Est. Arkholt submitted Castor and Ryan. Liberty Ernie submitted Tomas. Pipler submitted Radqueds. Hugo submitted Lawrence. Furon submitted Wolf. And Zetetic submitted Wendell. And then finally Zelda. And then 5 different numbers 1, 3, 2, 3, 6 submitted Minerva and Samson. Minerva has already been tiered for FE1 apparently. I don't know, actually no. Where are they at? Yo, you're not here. Alright, it's because I added them late. I'm a dummy. Hold up, let me grab them real quick. There we go, there's the whole squad. I'm sorry, I did not forget about you guys. You were on my sheet, you just weren't on the thing. Pretty sure I need Wolf as well. Yeah, here we go. Here's Wolf. Because we didn't have this portrait enough. There we go. Okay, that's nicely filled out. I think that's all of them. Yeah, that should be all of them. Perfect. So let me get into the metagame of FE1 and tier list real quick. Okay, so I played FE1 once. I played the remake on the Switch, the localization. It wasn't really that great. It wasn't really that great. It was funny. It was nostalgic, but it was not that great of a game to play through. It was actually really tedious, and I didn't really enjoy it too much. It was fun for nostalgia, and that's basically it. So the way I view FE1 is the characters that are the best are the ones that reduce tedium. I think I introduced this concept for an FE4 character guide at some point. The best characters I think are the ones that make the game the least tedious. So I think there's like 3 different kind of characters for that game. Characters that are really good and optimal because they make the game go by super fast, or as fast as it can. You know, it is the NES game. Then you got characters below that are helpful if you really wanted to play with like a full team that can like do something. And then you got characters that just slow down the game and don't really do much for you at all. Like, they're just a pain in the butt to raise. A couple weird things, a couple weird quirks about FE1. There's many, but a couple ones that I want to name. I think the ability to use silver swords is very important for a character. If they can use those, they are like buyable and widely available. You get so much gold in FE1, and they're by far the best weapon type to use. So if you can use swords, you're probably well off. In this game, like, I think Armor Knights, Pegasus Knights, and let me think what else. I know Pegasus Knights can definitely use swords. There was like one underclass that could do it. Paladins, of course, can use swords. So there's a lot of people that can do that. There's some weird weapon types in this game overall, but I think silver swords are by far the best weapons to have available. The weapon level stat, so in like later games, like the GBA games, you have a lot of different weapon types that a character can use, right? They got like, maybe they have like A rank lances, but B rank axes, for example, for Marcus. In this game, there's only one stat, weapon level, and it just determines how many weapons you can use, or rather, how high of a weapon level you can use. So let's say the silver sword, for example, is level 7. If your weapon level stat is 7 or higher, you can use the silver lance. So in that regard, you can also grow that stat, just like you can grow like Constitution and Thracia, you can grow Strength for every other game. So there's no A rank lances or anything. So with that in mind, let's see how useful the characters are. So I think Barst, for example, is one of those characters that can be helpful if you're going through with the whole team, but I don't think he's the most efficient choice. So I think what I'm actually going to end up doing is put characters in like the E tier, the C tier, and the S tier roughly. I might use more tier distinguishments if needed. Like, I'm not going to delete the rows just yet, but I'm going to try to stick to like 3 categories, because I think that's basically how FE1 works. So I think Barst, I mean, you could just put him in B for Barst and just settle for that. Just like, I think he's alright. The problem with Barst, of course, is that he cannot promote in FE1. There is no hero crest or anything that he can use. Some characters just cannot promote. The same goes for like Drought, for example, as you'll see later. So we kind of have to think of him as like a pre-promote. Fortunately, it doesn't slow down his XP gain or anything. There's no XP gaining difference between classes. It's just you kill an enemy, you get whatever XP they're worth. And they actually have like a value of XP on their stat screen, where normally for a playable character their XP for current level would be. And I think, like, for example, most enemies are worth like 30 to 32 XP. So you'll never slow down in leveling either, which is good for characters that are leveling along the curve. It's bad for characters that are trying to catch up like Est, because they don't gain more XP for killing enemies that are way stronger than them. So you don't have to worry about that. But yeah, Barstool probably, if you use him like full team, he'll level up at some point. Axes in FE1 are obviously not great because it's a Kaga game before FE5, and even in FE5 there's some bad axes. Barst does like okay in this game, but the lack of promotion and the heavy weight of some axes is kind of annoying. I did notice that hammers are like roughly as good as iron axes for some reason. Like, I think they're like 1 less might and 1 less weight for some reason, and they do okay. You can obviously like jank on like armor knights with it at some point. Also, lack of movement kind of sucks. This game does not have dismounting indoors like FE3 does, so he will have trouble keeping up with paladins. And honestly, this game has a lot of good high move units. Basically every Pegasus Knight, every Wyvern Rider, every Cavalier, every Paladin is to some extent pretty good. So he'll have trouble keeping up with those if you're just rushing through maps. And of course the Warp Staff is also there. So it's pretty hard to be good as a combat unit if you're not super standing out at some point. Mathis, I think this is one of those games where Mathis is not that far the main Christmas calves, but I still would not put him in like the most efficient tier ever. I still think his bases are worse than Kane's and Abel overall. Pretty sure they're not better. I'm gonna double check just to see. I can just compare. Using the OIFI bot and DMs, it's very helpful. Yeah, so his bases are worse than Abel's, and his growth are honestly worse all around. He has a worse speed growth, especially. He's got 20% speed growth to Abel's like 50%, for example. And that's just like one quick comparison, but considering he joins later and stuff, it's just a very bad choice to use. I can't put Mathis in a high tier. I'm afraid I'm gonna have to. I wouldn't actually call him as bad as Roger, so I might just have to like open up my D tier for him. I'll just put him here for now. Okay, next we got Pala and Katria, I'm very happy that I'm actually able to recognize the characters so far, but when we get to the Gordon portion, it's going to get tough, okay? Bear with me here. So they join a bit under-leveled, but they do promote the Draco Knights, so at some point I think they can become viable combat units. I think I used one or both of them in my FE1 playthrough for a while, and they're like okay, but they don't one-run a base, and if you don't one-run a base, like, you're almost not worth using. You'd rather just snowball through the whole game with Marth, Jaeger, and Minerva. I think those are the kind of characters that end up in the top echelons. Spoilers. So I wouldn't put them that high. Like, I would put them like around Barst's useful level probably. Like the Pegasus Knight, Draco Knight promotion is obviously great. Like, you lose some res, but you gain a bunch of strength and defense, just like a Shadow Dragon, I'm pretty sure. And they can do alright. One funny thing I think you can do in this game that I think I exploited with one of the Pegasus Knights is, I think if you apply Pure Water or Barrier and then you use a stat booster to boost your res, I think the boost becomes permanent, which is a pretty funny thing to do. And I think I did that with one of the Pegasus Knights, and that made them like a res tank. Because normally if you want, like, no one has any resistance to speak of. Okay, next, you might have thought that this was Gordon at one point, but this is actually Setguard. This is Setguard's portrait. It's just the exact same as Gordon as far as I know. And Setguard, I mean, he doesn't have the growth that he has in FE11, obviously. They actually like just plain bad, I'm pretty sure. Let me just check what they are real quick. God, I should have used Oifi like way earlier for these. Setguard. Yeah, so his bases are absolutely atrocious. He's supposed to be pre-promoted. It doesn't hurt his XP gain, but his growths are complete trash. I did actually find Setguard like surprisingly helpful when I was playing, just to pull things out of convoys, because in FE1 you cannot buy things and send to the convoy. You fill up your inventory and that's it. So you spend a lot of time just moving between shops and the convoy. You also cannot trade items between characters very easily. You can only give items to one person or the other, and you can't trade items back and forth in one like smooth trade like you can in later games. So convoy management is actually important, and because Setguard has so much move, you don't have to work on him to get like, I think it's 9 move at base. It's actually pretty helpful that he's there, but I can't really credit him for that too much because almost any character can fulfill that role, and like even Mathis could do that. So I should probably just put him in the same tier as Mathis. I think he's slightly more helpful because I think he has one more move. Let me just double check that real quick. I love being able to fact check myself. They actually both have 9 move. Okay, so they're like basically the same in that regard. I do like that Setguard can like chip people from range, even though his base strength, like his bases are so bad. He has 4 base strength and 7 base speed. He is god awful. I think his base performance is actually on par with Mathis. That's pretty silly. But yeah, let's not put him very high though. Roger, I think, is still worse though, because he joins like so much later, has much worse class, and doesn't really do anything to compensate. Like, he's tanky, who gives a shit. Sita and Marth. I mean, I already said Marth was very good. Let's do Sita first. So Sita joins early enough to where I would say she's like, there's 2 things that Sita does, right? For one, she's available early on where you might need the more help than later on when your Marth is like super good, or your Jaeger or your Minerva or whatever. It's just outclassing the enemies by far, because the enemies just barely become stronger in FE1, but your characters do if they just grow. So Sita can also be part of that snowballing crew and just be really good, and that is helpful. She still needs to promote, of course. She's not as good as she's in FE11 because she has no wing spear to speak of, so she just has the Pegasus Knight and Draco Knight class to carry her. And of course there's no real flyer utility, like you can't visit villages with flyers, you can't rescue drop anyone, so she's just flexible on her own. That can be helpful, but I didn't find Sita super great. One cool thing about Sita is that she can use Silverlands at base. She can just take Jing and Silverlands, and I think she one-rounds enemies with it. I still found her like kind of fragile and a little hard to use sometimes, but I do think she's better than these by margin. Like, if Sita isn't better than Katria and Pala, like, what are we even talking about here? But yeah, this is roughly how I would put them, I think. I think Sita's alright, but she does really need high might weapons to be able to one-round stuff, where some other characters can use lower end weapons to one-round stuff. Marth, I think, is the best character in the game with ease, because if your Marth is good, then he can steamroll through the game on his own, and you don't have to worry about anyone else. You can bring in some supporting characters, but overall Marth is really good. I think a lot of people notice about him, but he has innate provoke. Like, enemies will always go for Marth if given a chance. I've seen like 1 or 2 exceptions through my whole run where they actually do not go for Marth and they try to go for someone else and maybe get him killed. But I think often, like, even if you put a healer in range, for example, and then put Marth in range, they'll just go for Marth. They try to get a game over on you. I think the idea was that the enemies will try to get a game over on you, so you force you to restart, whereas other characters, the kill wouldn't be as bad, it wouldn't be as beneficial. Enemies will go over other characters because they know you probably won't reset, or rather they think you won't reset. Little did they know that at some point it became standard to become like reset, but they know that if you kill Abel, like whatever, you'll just move on and maybe use Marth instead, right? That was the idea. And if they kill Marth, they force you to restart the chapter, and that's much worse. So they'll go for Marth always. So if you just make your Marth super strong, then enemies will just keep killing themselves onto Marth, and you will win much quicker. And also, I mean, Marth has to get to this seize point anyway, so if you want to be efficient, you're gonna have to train Marth, like no way around it. Even if he was bad, you would still train him. It's like Selef in FE4 in a way. He just determines how fast you can go by how strong your lord is. And then the other thing that people often hype about Marth that I'm not a big fan of is the Falchion. So the thing with the Falchion is the description on paper is very powerful. I think it says like seals all attacks other than ranged attacks and mana keyed attacks, and can be used to restore HP. So it's like an infinite use elixir. And that seems super strong on paper, but I think people often forget a couple things. You only get the Falchion after beating Garneth, and after that there's only 2 chapters left, I think. The mana key chapter, of course, and then the final chapter. Now in those chapters, I'm pretty sure that 90%, if not 95% of the enemies fall into those categories that Falchion does not seal. It's either mana keys or ranged attackers like snipers and bishops. I think they're called bishops. They're basically just sages in this game. It's like what Wendell and Boa are. It's just one promoted magical class. So those do not get sealed. And don't get me wrong, Falchion is a nice weapon. It's fairly strong. I think it's actually about as strong as a Silver Sword, but you already have basically infinite use Silver Sword. So the Falchion having infinite uses doesn't really matter that much. And then what was the other thing? It's effective against, I think it's only effective against Medis, not even against generic mana keys. I'm pretty sure. I need to check that actually. That seems pretty important. It doesn't really matter too much, I think, for its utility, because you're going to use it anyway. Falchion. Yeah, so it's effective against Medius, but not against mana keys. So you still need the power to kill with it. And then it does have like 10 might, but Silver Sword I'm pretty sure has like 12 or 13, so it's actually even stronger. Yeah, Silver Sword has 12 might. So there really is no reason to use Falchion over Silver Sword against normal enemies like mana keys in that chapter. And then the restoring HP is like fun and everything, but if you're doing that, then you're probably not countering, like you're not doing anything against the snipers and bishops that hurt you in the first place. So often I found myself just attacking anyway, and if my Marth was hurt somehow, I'd rather just physic him or fortify rather than attacking or using the Falchion to heal myself. So I think Falchion is really overrated, is basically my point. It is good against Medius though. Like, don't get me wrong, if you don't train Marth, then fighting Medius is a hell, because Medius is like Dragonstone. I think it seals all ranged attacks, and then what are you even left with their options, right? Because he also has like pretty buff stats. So normal weapons generally won't even hurt him. I think if you haven't trained Marth, you're actually pretty screwed against Medius. I'm sure there's ways. I'm sure people have killed him with Rad and whatever. But Marth is by far the most painless way to do it. And if we're not making FE1 painless, then what are we even doing, right? I usually don't give much credit for killing bosses, especially not final bosses. But I think it's worth a mention here for his ranking at least. So just generally, I think Marth is the best candidate for every stat booster you get until he's completely overkill. Even if he's capped at level, it's still probably most efficient to kill enemies with Marth. He's really good in this game, and the provoke just makes him useful for getting enemies towards him and making him even easier to snowball. Because if enemies don't go for the other characters but they go for Marth, they also give him XP that way. That's why I think Marth is good. Jaeger. So I think Jaeger is somewhere between Marth and Sita, and I think I'd rather put him in S tier than A tier, or move them all down a little bit, like just do like this. Because I think Jaeger is better than Sita, for sure. Jaeger, like, he's the classic Jaeger, like, he's the OG Jaeger. He has good enough basis for the other chapters, and an awful growth. That's his whole concept. He does not have reduced XP gain, like a lot of other later quote-unquote Jaegers. Like, the real OG Jaeger has the same XP gain as everyone else, but his growths are so bad that it's not worth feeding him levels. I think I remember that mine actually gained a point of strength early on, and started one-rounding enemies with an iron sword. That I vaguely have memories of that. That was actually pretty cool. That was pretty helpful. And then Jaeger is also a pretty good investment for stat boosters. I didn't mention this yet, but FE1 stat boosters are ridiculous. They give like insane amounts of stats. I like the move one is the best one, I think. Let me check real quick how much they gave again. So FE1 boots give 4 movements, which is stupid. You just give those to Marth, of course. You don't give them to Jaeger. But then like, let me check Speed Wing real quick. Speed Ring, I think it's called. Yeah, so a Speed Ring alone increases your speed by 6. So it's like 3 times as effective as a normal Speed Ring. Or Speed Wing from other games. So that alone will make Jaeger double everything for the rest of the game. And you get multiples, so you can definitely afford to spend one on Jaeger. You still have one for like Minerva or some other scrubby character you want to raise. So that will make Jaeger I mean, it won't make him instantly destroy everything. He still has his weaknesses. I did actually like unironically find that Jaeger does fall off later on in the game, because I didn't give him every single stat boosters. I gave him some to Marth. In hindsight, I didn't need all the ones that I gave him. But still, his early performance is super good. It makes it super easy to feed kills to Marth or anyone else you want to. And with the stat boosters in mind, he doesn't really fall off. So I think he's still worth giving them to, because his base class is good. Being a paladin is super nice. He has the mobility over everyone else. He doesn't need to promote or anything. Motion items are actually surprisingly scarce in FE1. I think they're even worse than in FE11. So you won't even be able to like promote everyone you want to until very late in the game. I mean, I think you can buy like Master Seals at one point. But if you're using like all of like Abel and whatever, Abel and Cain, I think, or whatever, Ogma, and then like all these other characters, there's not a lot of promotable characters in here, but you get the point, right? You can't promote everyone you want to. So not needing a promotion item is also a nice pro. So yeah, that's why we go with A tier Jaeger. Then we got Narvar. I think he's got one of the few unique portraits in this game. I think Narvar and Ogma are, I'm going to get into Ogma later, they're both helpful characters to have around, and if you want to train units and use them long term, then they're as good as it gets. They are both the mercenary class, which is basically just what would later become Myrmidon and mercenary separated, but in this game they're the same class. They have the ability to use silver swords, they have some decent mobility. I think Hero has 7 or 8 move in this game actually. FE1 Hero. Yeah, they have 7 move, which is pretty nice. It's not as much as a 9 move that, for example, the Horseman and the Paladin get, but it's still quite a lot. So I would say he can keep up enough to where he can help contribute with combat. It's usually faster in a speedrun sense to use only Marth, but this is not really about a speedrun. So if you want a recommendation for how good he is, or rather you want to see like objectively how good he is, I think he goes here. You can argue that the mobility to Pegasus Knights edges out, but I think Narvar's availability is something to say for it as well. But I think the units in like B and C tier are roughly equivalent. Then we have, I'm pretty sure this is Zane, but I'm going to double check because I don't trust FE1 portraits, so let me get my sheet real quick. I'm pretty sure this is Zane. Yeah, there we go. Power Sprite is submission of Zane. So Zane is a weird case. I forgot the real intricacies of how he works in FE1 versus FE3 and FE11 and FE12, because like all those games are different. But I remember him being fairly helpful. You can transform him into your best unit and have 2 of them, but he will be a bit behind on movement because you probably won't be able to keep up with your best units. So unless you either have to hold them back, or you have to like not move Zane at all turn 1 in order to transform. I think the amount of turns he stays transformed is pretty random, and that's annoying and unpredictable, but at least he doesn't transform until the end of enemy phase, so you'll generally have him for whatever you know you have him for. Like, he won't unexpectedly untransform at the start of enemy phase like a Laguz or something. So that saves some. I generally don't think he's super useful, but sometimes it might be helpful to just have an extra physic or something. One annoying thing that I found when using Zane is that the lack of instant trading means that you have to plan it out in advance, and you also cannot trade in the preps menu, by the way, so you can't really set up Zane with a good inventory. So what I would generally do, I think, is just give him a silver sword, and then chances are whatever my best unit at the time is probably has a silver sword, so you can just use that. And that generally got the job done, but I don't think he's super great. I probably put him like C tier somewhere. I didn't find much of a use for him. He's probably better than Barst, actually. I think he's better than Barst. I don't know about these two. I would sometimes transform Zane into these two, or one of these two, whichever one I used. There we go. Now we get to some Christmas Cavaliers. We get to Cain and Abel. Now, I think they're pretty distinct in Shadow Dragon, like FE11 Shadow Dragon, the remake, right? Because there they have different weapon levels in swords and lances, and their differences in stats matter quite a bit. Like, I think Cain gets doubled sometimes, when Abel does not. Abel can do javelins right away, Cain cannot. Abel can use Rider's Bane earlier, Cain takes a while to get there. So they're pretty different there. In this game, I think they're basically the same unit. Their bases are not very far apart. They don't even have like vastly different growths. Like, let me compare real quick to see what I can check. So yeah, like the differences between their strength and speed are literally 1 point, and then their growths are also like not that far apart, like 10% apart. So there's really no reason to distinguish between them very much. And also, even funnier, something you might not know about FE1 promotions is they work the same as they do in like Guiding Echoes, where they'll raise you up to the bases of whatever class they go if they're lower. So for example, they have 18 base HP, and a Paladin base is 22. So if you get really HP screwed, which is very unlikely because they have like a near 100% growth, or Kane does at least. So, but let's say they somehow end up with like 20 HP, they will always go up to 22 when promoting. So that even further diminishes unit differences. So with that in mind, I can't put him in a different tier. I think I put him like roughly in the same spot as like Narvar and Cedar, where like if you want to raise them in the early game, they're pretty good choices. Like if you want an actual team of units, then you should probably raise them, or at least one of them. I know I used Abel and he was actually pretty decent for me. And later in the game, like he had better stats than Jaeger for sure, especially with like no stat boosters taken into account, so they're fine. Between which of the two is better, I don't really care. I'm gonna put them this way because that way they're looking at each other and they do the sassy thing from the FE1 let's play that everyone loves to quote. So that's probably the best way to put them. Now Ogma, I think is basically the same unit as Narvar, come to think of it. He joins, let me think, basically I think one map earlier, which isn't enough to make him better by default. Let me compare their bases real quick, because they're both heroes. A hero is a good class to promote into. So you got Ogma, and you got Narvar. So they actually have surprisingly low base strength. They actually only have like 5 and 6 base strength. Ogma's base strength is actually higher, and because they double everything anyway with their 11 and 12 speed and the lightweight of the Silver Sword, there's no constitution in this game to negate that or anything. So speed is pretty nice to have. Ogma's looking better. He actually has the better strength and better speed at base. So even if Narvar was faster, but he's not, he's better HP too. Oh, damn. It looks like Ogma is just straight up better. I don't see a reason to pick Narvar over Ogma ever. I guess Narvar has slightly better growths in some areas. Yeah, Ogma only has 30% speed. Narvar has 50. Narvar also has 50 strength. Ogma only has 40. And Ogma has 80% HP, and Narvar has 90. So it's basically basis versus growth. Well, we know what I would pick, right? You know what I would pick. I mean, the thing with Ogma is he'll probably be slightly higher level as well, so close to promotion. I think that helps as well. I'll say Ogma's better. I don't really care all that much, but I think Ogma's better overall. Next, we have this character that looks like an axe guy, but I need to make sure that I'm picking the right one. Pretty sure it's Board. Yeah, Lucas submitted Board. So, cannot promote like Barst. This is the slow one that can use the hammer, which is kind of nice, but since Barst can use it at some point as well, I'm not sure if you can use it at base. Let me check real quick. Barst's hammer. Weapon level is, with the hammer is 2, so anyone can use it really. Like Barst is 6 weapon, yeah. So the hammer is no longer exclusive to Cord like it is in Shadow Dragon or to Board. You can actually use the hammer if you're Barst, so that kind of takes away his only niche. I feel like his base speed is what's his base? It must be like 5, right? That's what it is in Shadow Dragon. Oh, it's actually 7. That's better than I remember it being. So that's a little better than I thought it was, but his growth is only 10%. So you'll probably not get more than 7 speed for a long time. And to give you an idea, hold up. To give you an idea, this is one below Jagen's base speed. So if you think Jagen falls off speed-wise, then Board really does as well. So I don't think he really does anything. I think he's like Mathis tier then, basically, without the ability to help with convoying and stuff. He can still convoy help. Like, it's not like the horses are that much better at it, but yeah, this is roughly where I put him. Still nice that he can help in the early game, like the very early part of the game where you don't have the juggernauts quite yet besides Jagen. So maybe he's a little better than Mathis, but I'd roughly put him around here. Next we have Linde, and she can use Aura. That's what she's known for. That's what I know her for. Magic is kind of funny. No enemies have res of any kind, so the defense res gap is kind of good. And with that regard, Linde does a lot of damage, but I don't think she ever won round stuff. I might be wrong on that. How much speed do we got? Linde with Aura. So it weighs 7, so she has 0 base AS with Aura. That's bad news. I'm pretty sure you can't have 0... I don't think you can have negative attack speed in FE1. So I don't think she's going to double anything. She does have... Well... I don't think she has... I think Tome Might does not take into account strength at all. So she literally just does 20 damage to everything with Aura, which is not enough to get one shot. So I'm pretty sure she's not one-on-one with that. And that's pretty unfortunate. I also don't think she can one-on-one with Fire or any other tomes like that. So that makes her offense kind of crap. And like I said with the experience thing in FE1, where even if you're on a level, you still gain the same XP as someone who's over-leveled. You don't catch up very fast. So that makes Linde pretty bad, honestly. Like, I would honestly... Unless I'm missing something, I'm pretty sure she's like a little better than Roger, and that's about it. I don't see a reason to use Linde in FE1. She's just too bad. Kind of like, it goes back to the philosophy of FE1 where they just make replacement characters. And then if you lose like Merrick early on, you can still use Linda, for example. I think that might be the idea with her. Plus Aura, and some people might want to use a girl, you know, because they like that kind of stuff. So that might be why Linda exists. I do appreciate the idea of killing Garnet with Linda, though. That's always a funny choice to make, just giving her Starlight. And Avenger, I think it's her father or grandfather. I'm pretty sure it's her father, Maloa. That makes sense. Bantu, I think Bantu is really funny to use, so I think if you're playing FE1, you gotta appreciate the glitch use. You gotta appreciate that the game's broken as fuck and just try to use it. So there's a glitch in FE1 where if you try to use a promotion item with Bantu or Tiki, it says it will fail, it will not consume the item, but it will boost their defense by I think 10 or something. So I went out of my way to give Bantu I think at least 60, maybe even 99 defense or something. And I was surprised at how terrible he still was, even though I got him max defense. Even though enemies did like negative 70 damage to him, they would heal him if they could. It wasn't doing anything for him. A couple reasons for that. For one, he was still vulnerable to magic, and most of the maps where the tanking would maybe come in handy. You're also facing enemy magic users, so he would still die somewhat quickly. Because Bantu's stats otherwise are not that great. Let me check his bases real quick, because I need to refresh on those. So yeah, his bases are absolutely awful. And then the Dragonstone, what's it called? I think it's called Firestone, the one he uses. Yeah, it grants defense plus 12, and that's it. So his other stats, like, for example, he has 18 HP, he has 2 strength, but he has a 60 might weapon, so the strength is okay. His speed is a massive 4, and his res is a massive 0, because everyone's is. So that's kind of cringe. I do like the Dragonstone mechanic where you just use it and you transformed, and that's it, kind of like transforming Zane. I think that stuff is pretty interesting. It's much more straightforward than FE Shadow Dragon's way of like hidden transformation bonuses, so in a way it's more transparent. But at the same time, you know, I'd really wish he had more than just defense. I thought it was funny to use. There's probably like, you could probably choke a point with him somewhere if you really want to incline to. But other than that, I don't think there's a lot of point in Bantu in FE1. It's really saying something when a unit has like infinite defense, but they can't really do much. Tiki is a little bit different though. I think she used the Divine Stone. So that one only has 12 might, but it has a lot more hit. It has 100 compared to Firestone's 80. And then it also doesn't weigh as much. It is like 1 compared to 3. But I'm pretty sure her bases are still awful. I think she still gets doubled by everything. I actually tried using her. Yeah, so she has 3 base speed and gets weighed down by 1. So she has absolutely no speed to speak of until she grows. She does have like really good growths. I think that's like a tradition for Tiki in most games. She actually has 0% defense growth, but an 80 HP, 50 strength, 90 skill, 7% weapon level, whatever the point of that is for a person that uses Dragonstones, but 90% speed. So eventually, if you raised her, she would probably have some speed. She's actually level 5 at base, and the level cap I'm pretty sure is 20 for all units. So she'd only ever get to like 18 speed, and that's if she procs speed every time. But that's enough to double, so she could probably get there if you want to. Obviously, makes the game a lot more tedious than it needs to be. Like, there's no point in raising Tiki, objectively speaking. Like, I don't think she can do enough to justify doing anything. So I just put her over Bantu, and honestly, even that is questionable because Bantu is available much earlier. You could honestly switch him around like this. But I think overall they'll make the game more tedious than they ever need to be. I don't think she's like, there's better games for Tiki, let me put it that way. She's also not like effective against anything, I think. Divine Stone. Oh, actually it's effective against Manicheets. And it does give 15 defense, so she has 20 defense at base. I'm not sure if she OHKOs Manicheets, because it's been a while since I used her. I know when I played FE1 she died in the final chapter. I'm sorry guys. She did. But I don't think Tiki's very strong. Then we have Goto. I think Gotos have traditionally been the hardest unit to put in the tier list because you're really not measuring their own strength as much as you're just weighing how much availability matters. And if you're only available for one chapter, then, and even if you're really good for that one, how do you weigh it against the character that's only good, that's around for like all game long and pretty good? Like sure, he's probably worse than Marth because Marth is good for every chapter once he's been snowballing. Jaeger probably worse than him. Here's where it gets dicey. I would rather, if you like put a gun to my head and told me, okay, you have to use every character that you draft in a draft race or something, or like in a even a normal playthrough where you draft units, like a pick my units or something, you're forced to use every character that you pick. I would happily pick Goto just so I didn't have to train these units and make the game even slower and more tedious. But is that really the way we want to measure this? So I'm usually tempted to put units like this in like the C tier or the lower B tier, because they're helpful, they are for free, they are good, but they're not around for too much, so we can't give them too much credit. So I would stick them like the bottom of B tier. I'm pretty sure Goto's main utility in the final chapter for me was using Fortify and maybe using Warp somewhere to transport people around. That's the main thing I liked him for. I'm pretty sure Goto cannot hurt Medius. His Dres is like nothing, but Medius, I think, negates all 2-range attacks. I'm not sure if I tried using 1-range on him, but I think it's not even like the most efficient way to fight Goto regardless, so I'm just going to stick him here and hope for the best. I do know that he has the Swarm Tome, I'm pretty sure, but I think the Swarm Tome in FE1 actually doesn't have 3 to 10 range. I know it does in like later games. Yeah, it only has 1 to 2 range. It's like, I don't even know what the point of this tome is. It has high might, it has 16 might, so that's probably why it exists. Let me see, Goto. Yeah, so his base weapon level is 20, so you can use any staff and any tome you want him to. So if you have something good, you can give it to him and he'll use it. But I don't think he's super great overall against the enemies there. I don't remember him one-rounding particularly well. I don't think his strength matters, so he's just going off of tome might like everyone else. But he does have capped speed at base, so at least he probably doubles. He probably doubles. Forgive me for my lack of expertise in using the character in the final chapter of the one game I've played only once. I think I just like walked or warped Marth to the final part. You can probably see it because I plan on putting FE1 footage in the bottom right. Next up, I'm pretty sure this is Jake. He has a pretty funny face. I like the Jake face. Actually, is that Jake? No, it's Beck. Okay, never mind. They have to say the same portrait, but I thought this was Jake. Yeah, no, I got the right one. It's the blue one. Okay. We Gucci. So, Beck is... I mean, so you think of FE... Shadow Dragon maybe, like the remake, and you think, well, ballisticians must be good, but unfortunately in this game, ballisticians are absolute crap. They don't have range. They have I think they have 2 range only. They have a special set of ballistas, but they're basically just bows with 2 range, but then they also have crappy mobility and crappy everything else. Like his growths, like he's got a 20% strength growth and a 6 base at this point in the game. Like, I don't see the point in this character. He has like good base defense at 14, which is, funnily enough, it's 1 below Goto, for example. So he can quote-unquote tank, I guess, but then he has 0% growth in defense, like actual 0%. So he's not even really meant to do that, I feel like. I don't know what the point of this character is. I don't know why you would ever want to tank with a unit that has like 20 base HP, for example. That's even worse than FE10 Aaron, man. That's just so bad. I think this guy goes straight to E tier, like actually worse than all this other stuff we've been seeing. I'm sorry. Like, when we get to Shadow Dragon, the remake, then I'm definitely going to put these guys in S tier if I haven't already, because goddamn, they're so strong there. But this is not a great game for Beck. I think the submitter actually said, who was it that submitted Beck? Let me double check here. I think they said he has some funny lapses in usefulness or something. Man, yeah. Like, yeah, he's pretty different between games. Like, I can't really think of many characters that change as much as Beck does between like FE1 and later games. Like, he's not even in FE3, and then in FE11 he's just super good, and then FE12 they decided to stop using ballistas, so he's super bad again. He goes up and down real fast. Next is Drought. I love his portrait. It just reminds me of that FE1 Let's Play where he has these conversations with like Gordon and Marth, where it's like, yeah, don't worry, none of these entrails are mine, and stuff like, Doga has fought stronger kittens. Doga is no longer welcome in the animal shelter for that reason. Drought is interesting in FE1. He can't promote, which is unfortunate. Like, the general class exists, like Lawrence is in it. It's not even enemy only, it's just you can't promote to it. You're just not promoting. He can use swords, so he can double stuff early on. He can also use lances, I'm pretty sure. And that's about where the good stuff ends. Like, the mobility is obviously a huge downside, and past the first couple chapters I don't really see much of a use for him. His base defense is good, don't get me wrong. Like, he doesn't take much damage, so he can be helpful, like wall, some choke points here and there. He does have 11 base defense, which is enough to just not die to anything most of the time. So that has like its niche uses, but after like chapter 4 or 5, I just don't see much of a reason to use him anymore. I really tried. I do think it's better than some of these characters for that usefulness early on, but that's about where it ends for me. You could maybe argue he's like, nah, he's not better than Barstool, I think he belongs here. Next up is Harden, and first off, his portrait is absolutely awesome. I love how detailed it looks compared to a lot of the others, which are just copy-paste, but his is just super unique and cool. And unlike a lot of these like replacement characters, like versions of characters that join later, like Abel and Cain versus Mathis and Roshi and stuff, I know Roshi has his merits in some of the early games, but Harden looks a lot better compared to them. He actually has better bases, higher base level, only 4 levels from promotion, and just better stats all around. Like, again, comparing him to Abel, for example, he has 3 more strength at base and 1 more speed, so he looks a lot better in that regard. Worse growth, of course, actually better speed growth, but worse strength growth than Abel, for example. So not even completely inferior, and honestly, kind of a helpful character. I'm not sure if I put him like as better than these, because that's always the question, right? But he's definitely up there in that B tier at the very least, and you could honestly argue he's about almost useful as like Jaeger. Like, how does bases stack up against Jaeger's? There's still a promotion item issue, of course, but I'm just curious. Yeah, so he actually has better bases than Jaeger all around. Besides the movement, of course, and then Jaeger has like 1 more defense, but his growth are much better, so maybe they belong higher up. Maybe. Like, I'm pretty sure if you still prioritize Jaeger for stat boosts, of course he'll be better, but if you get to stat boosts to Harden, he would also be better. So it's like 4 chapters of availability. Does that put Jaeger a tier higher, or should we maybe move all the Cavaliers a tier up? Honestly, I wanna do this at the very least. And maybe even this, because I don't think Sita's flying is that great in this game. I found her really lacking in some areas when I used Sita. Maybe it should be more like this, and maybe it should be even more like this. I'm curious about your thoughts about this if you played FE1, because I'm not sure. Like, I instantly put Jaeger here because mostly hearsay and like meta knowledge, but looking at the stats and the bases, I don't see why there should be a tier difference between them. Maybe it should be like this for now. Maybe Jaeger is just in the same tier, and just, I don't know about an empty tier between these. I don't think there's anyone who fits here. Maybe Minerva, but this is roughly how I would put it, I think. I definitely think Marth is still better than everyone else, though. Okay, what do we got next? We have Est, and I mean, you already know where Est goes, right? Triangle attack is a pretty funny meme in this game, but other than that, I don't really see a reason to use Est. I think I killed Camus with her in FE1, just for shits and giggles. Let's see. I would say D tier is probably appropriate. Like, sure, S sucks, but at least she can become something good, whereas these characters are never really worth using ever. So we can kind of distinguish her through that a little bit. But I don't think S is like... Again, the XP issue is a big thing for S, I think. But her growths, I think, in this game are phenomenal, right? If you won S... Just double check real quick. Yeah, so she has like 70% in every stat, basically. Like 70% strength, skill, weapon level, speed. Only 20% defense, so her defense will remain a problem. She actually has a pretty good defense base of 8 for her level, but that late in the game, it's not really that good. Like, her base is obviously trash. I do think she has some merit over the E tier characters, though. I'm actually surprised at like how much more distinguished the FE1 tier list is compared to what I thought it'd be. I thought it was going to be 3 categories, right? Marth, Jaeger, Minerva, and then like people like Abel, Cain, and Ogma, and then the rest who are just not worth using. But I think there's actually some distinguishing between them. Okay, Castor, pretty sure this is Castor. I'm gonna double check because again, I don't trust FE1 port to tell me the whole story. Yeah, our cult submitted Castor. All right, so Hunter is interesting class. It looks like it has like a promoted version of itself in the game in Horseman, but I'm pretty sure Castor just doesn't promote. Like, it's just don't do it. Let me just double check though, because better safe than checking. Yeah, he's a hunter, doesn't promote, so he caps out. FE1 has a funny early game bow in the, I think it's called a bow gun, where you basically just have a killer bow early on. It only has 20 crit as opposed to like 30 that killer weapons would later get. But it's a funny thing. It's just like a bow that anyone can use because it's 2 weapon level. Only has 5 might, but it's 20 crit. It just kind of has it. And Castor's growths are actually not terrible. He has 60% strength growth and 40% speed. So I think he can keep up if you train him, kind of like Barst. But I do think the lack of an enemy phase is bad in this game because the enemies are so weak that you'd rather fight them on enemy phase than leave them uncountered. Not a whole lot of spots where I want a hunter, and sniper overall has better bases as well. So I would usually rather use a sniper than a hunter. But I don't think he's completely terrible, and I would be putting him D tier or maybe bottom of C. I'm gonna go with like the top of D somewhere. Maybe I think Setguard might be better because he has like the mobility, and that can be helpful at times. I can see Castor being sort of useful, but only if you really wanted to. Because like obviously the training is never really gonna pay off for FE1 characters like this. But he's a little better than I remember him being. He's all right. He looks okay. I like he's like what? How much move does he have? Yeah, he's 6 move. It's pretty decent. It's better than the Archer's 5, I'm pretty sure. Speaking of the Archer's 5, this is... This, I'm pretty sure Gordon is not here, right? Oh, this is Tomas, right? Yeah, speaking of the Archers 5, yeah, Tomas is dog shit. Tomas is like my favorite example of like why I was a little tired, a little tiered of the tier list before. It's just, if someone submits like FE11 Tomas and the next month they submit like FE12 Tomas and the next month they submit like FE1 Tomas, I have to say the same thing like every time. It's like, alright, it's a late joining boat user that's not very good. Next. But FE1 is especially terrible. Like, I'm pretty sure, let me compare his bases to Gordon, who joins like in the first chapter. So Tomas is a little better. He has 4 more HP, 2 more strength, and 1 more speed. Cool. And then he joins like 11 chapters later, so there's just no point in using this character whatsoever. Like, archers, I think in the Archanean games are just so bad. The cool thing about Tomas, though, actually, is he's only 2 levels from promotion. I forgot about that part. And Sniper is good. Sniper has 7 move, whereas Archer only has 5. So that's a big increase. And then his speed so I mentioned before that the speed promotion, or rather the promotion bonuses, they're not set like in FE7 where you just get like +1 speed on promotion or something. It's, you go to the next class's base, and the Sniper has a base speed of 14. So if you manage to get someone like Gordon or Tomas promoted, they actually end up with 14 speed, which is higher than a lot of characters will probably ever get without speed wings. And his other stats raise a little bit too. Like, what else is he even gonna raise? He doesn't gain any strength, I'm pretty sure. And like the base strength is Sniper 7, which is the same for Tomas. He has 7 base strength. HP goes with 24. He's probably, that's gonna be a little bit, but it doesn't matter much. But the speed is big. So actually, if you can stomach raising him 2 levels, which it should be like 6 kills total, because he gets like 30 per, 32, 33 per kill, then he's actually in decent shape. I still wouldn't put him very high. It'd be funny to put him next to Setguard, and we're going to be confused eternally about what he is. Almost tempted to put him like bottom C, but 2 levels is a bit annoying to give to him, and it's not that much of a return. I don't know, I want to give credit to Tomas when it's due, though. Let's put him on bottom C and see how angry the comment section gets. I'm actually kind of surprised at how high his base level is. Like, base level 8, is that what he used in Shadow Dragon 2? 11... Tomas. Now I'm curious. Yeah, he's level 8 in both games. Wow, he's much higher than I remember him being. I thought it was like level 5 or level 4 or something. No, he's actually pretty decent like that. Like, don't get me wrong though. Tomas's growths are not good. He's never really gonna get far beyond the Sniper bases. He has 20% strength growth and 30% speed. So that's not gonna get anywhere. Weapon level wise, I'm curious about something else. Because like, you get the Parthia around that time. And Tomas's base weapon level is 9 and he has 50% growth. But you need 13 to get the Parthia. So he's probably going to be... Let's see, he goes up to 10 weapon level and promotes to Sniper at the very least. He'll probably have 10 anyway. So from then he's like 3 weapon level procs to get to Parthia, which is like a 17 my bow. That's why I think it's significant. And then arm scroll. I think you also get an arm scroll in that chapter. I forgot what it's called. Manual. Yeah, so it increases by 5. So if you're willing to give him the manual, which is just an armor scroll basically, it increases his base weapon level to the point where you can use the Parthia base, which is funny because you get like that chapter where you free Tomas. So in that way, he's kind of like a pre-promote that you gotta train for 2 levels. If you think that's worth it, then it's worth. But you know, arm scroll, you might want us to give it to someone else too. Next up is Rad Queds. I mean, I like the hero class and all, but I don't think Rad Quets is worth. I'm just gonna straight up put him in E tier. I think it's just yikes. About Roger level. Maybe he should be about the same tier as Roger. I don't know for sure, but he's just not very good. Like, he's just, again, comparing him to early game characters for a bit, just to like see the point. Like, I don't think Ogma is particularly useful, but Ogma has better bases than Rad, and Rad has, I mean, to be fair, he has 50% strength growth and 70% speed growth, so he'll probably turn into something. But nah. It's just too slow, man. It just takes too long to promote Rad. It just takes so long. Like, he's level 1, right? Yeah, he's level 1 at base, so that takes like 9 levels to get him to hero, and you have to like heal him every time he gets attacked and everything. It's not worth. Then we have Lawrence. I want to see his bases because I actually forgot. So Lawrence is the only general you get because you cannot promote any of the knights to general. They just don't promote. And Lawrence actually has a base 16 defense, which is high for this game's standards, but it probably isn't enough to shrug off everything, especially because he also has no wrist to speak of. So I don't think he can properly tank everything. Generals only have swords in this game. They actually don't have lances or anything. But I mean, again, why else would he need anything but silver swords? Only 6 speed, probably not enough to double everything. 11 strength is kind of low for that point in the game. I don't see this character being particularly good. Yeah, I don't see a reason to put him higher than E tier. You could maybe justify him over Est or something, but honestly, I think I overrated Est a little bit, perhaps, but by like through some favoritism. I'm gonna throw him like, if there's something that Lawrence can do for free, which I'm not convinced that there is, then he's probably better than a lot of these characters that kind of suck. But as is, I just don't see a reason to use him, so I'm just gonna plop him here. Like, I like the logic of like you can maybe turn these characters into something worth using, especially like Rad maybe, but Lawrence is just not worth, I think. Maybe there's something you can do though. Maybe there's like uses for him at base that I'm not seeing, distracting enemies or something. But again, you can't really distract enemies from Marth because they'll always go for Marth. Okay, next up is Wolf, who actually has been given purple hair, probably to match his remake appearance. I'm actually kind of happy that they changed the hair colors, or rather that he has like a different hair color here, and then they matched that when they remade the games. That's pretty cool. I also like how his quiver is completely transparent, or the same color as the background. It's also a very good choice. So, same as Setguard, basically. I don't think there's any major differences between Wolf and Setguard in this game. Let me just compare them real quick just to see if there's any significant difference, but I don't think there is. So Wolf actually has decent growth. He has 50% strength, but only 20% speed. Never mind, I overlooked something. So his strength growth is good, but he's level 3 horseman, so he'll never have... Even if you proc strength every single time, he would only have... No, actually you can cap strength if you RNG abused. He can cap strength, but it's not really worth a whole lot. Also worth noting, I don't think I mentioned it yet, but the horsemen in this game cannot use swords. They can only use bows. So it's literally just a sniper on a horse. With worse stats, but I mean, he has 9 speed compared to Setguard's 7, so maybe there are some things he doubles, like how heavy is the bowgun? It only weighs 2, so there might be some things he can double, but I know from experience he doesn't really hurt all that much. I'm gonna put him like, I think he's the better one between the two, and that's about where it ends. Like, he's better than Setguard, that's about it. Pretty sure we're looking at Wendell right now. Again, I'm gonna double check because FE1 portraits are just a copy paste, and I know he has the same portraits as Boa, but no, this is Wendell. And because Boa is the yeah, Boa's the other one. Yeah, Boa's the later joining one. Okay, we got this. So Wendell this game joins very early. He doesn't have the greatest of bases, I remember, but I do believe he can use Excalibur just like Merrick can. Actually, I think it might be personal to Merrick in this game. Let me see. Yeah, it's Merrick only. Okay, so Wendell cannot use Excalibur in this game. Which means he's just kind of stuck with the normal tomes he's got. I think he had some trouble one-rounding, I remember that. Even with L-Fire or whatever else you give him. But he does have a base weapon level of 10 and the ability to use staves. So I'm pretty sure that gives him access to something good. I think you get a barrier staff early on that he can use. Yeah, I think he joins with it. And then he has, let's see. Let me check Warp, how useful that is. Yeah, so Warp is weapon level 6, and Boa has a weapon level of 10 at base, so we can use Warp, which is always very nice. And then there's like one more staff I wanted to check that I thought was kind of useful. Fortify, that's 8, so we'll probably use that by the time you get to it. Yeah, never mind, he has a base weapon of 10, you can use that. You can use Fortify. And Physic, I'm pretty sure you can also use a base, yeah. So those are like all useful staff utility things that I think Wendell is great for. Besides the offensive things that he can do, just healing to people is useful. I'm actually sure that I'm pretty sure I want to put him like A tier, because like that kind of utility, if you're trying to make the game less tedious, you don't want to spend your time sitting on forts healing or using vulneraries or going back to heal at like close range. You just want to physic people, and I think Wendell does that very well. Plus, I'm looking to fill up this gap right here. Like, I think there's good reasons not to use any of these characters besides maybe Jaeger, because Jaeger comes at like a base level where he's just so good. Like no promotion item and everything. But even if you're trying to solo the game with Marth, you'll probably want to use a physic every once in a while to keep him at full health with Wendell. I'm going to put Lena at the same point if we ever get to her, which we probably will. And then just keeping a good character and good health for no opportunity cost. It's just that good. So I'm pretty sure Wendell belongs up here. That seems balanced to me. Then there's Minerva. I'm pretty sure. So Minerva is kind of like Jaeger, where her bases are absolute trash, but the class is so good that it's worth investing her in anyway. Like I remember her speed in particular is awful. She has 6 base speed. So with the Silver Sword, which I think weighs 3, she's not going to double a whole lot. I think the gap for doubling in this game is it's either like 1 or 3. It's not very big. But I remember her life like some much trouble. She also has like trouble hitting stuff because her base skill is awful. It's like 3. I think she literally has the Draco Knight bases or her personal bases. Yeah, they match it to a T. So that's 6 speed, 9 strength, 22 HP. 14 defense is good though, like she's really tanky. She is weak to bows, so that can sometimes hurt. And then magic, of course, is also there. But generally, Minerva is very durable. So if you have the stat boosters to spare, like you invested them not in Jaeger, or you have like an extra lying around or something, then Minerva can be very good. If you don't have them, then she might be in some trouble. But I invested into her. I liked how good she was. So I'm going to put her up here. I think the Draco Knight class is very powerful. Being able to just surpass terrain and help out wherever you want to. There might be some chapters where Marth, for example, gets warped ahead of time to try and kill stuff, and then it takes a while to get to like have anyone else assist, and then you can have Minerva fly in and help as well. I think that's helpful. But I'm not entirely sure about this one because I did invest heavily into my Minerva with stat boosters, so my vision on this might be colored. But I'm pretty sure Minerva is an A tier, and I would rather use her than some of these characters. But if you're willing to like train these characters patiently, you're willing to sit through all those combat animations and all that experience gaining and shit, like all that slow moving them around every time, they'll end up better at combat, but they still won't be able to fly. I can see Katria and Pala ending up better than Minerva if you train them as well, but they join later, so I don't know, it's still close. And then finally we have Samson. You have to pass up on Aaron over for him, but I don't think that's a big issue. I want to check Samson's bases, because I think the hero bases are actually pretty decent in this game. Yeah, he has 10 base strength and 15 base speed, which I think might just be the hero bases. No, they're actually worse. He's better than hero bases. Go figure. He's still a level 1 hero, so he's got some ways to go. Fortunately, his growth are awful though. Like 30 strength, 20 speed is not going to get anywhere. I know for sure that if you raised Narvar or Ogma, they're good. Obviously, he doesn't have to be raised. He just joins, quote-unquote, battle ready. No axes in this game for heroes, just for clarification. I know in Shadow Dragon he's very good for using axes, but in this game there is no such thing. So just the swords. But Silver Sword, again, are good. There's no weapon trying or anything, so you don't have to worry about that. So we're going to go ahead and put him in, I want to say like C/B. I don't think he's as good as Ogma and Narvar, honestly. But he is for free, so maybe here this is fine. Bottom of B. I don't think he's great. I don't know, just give me your feedback. Let's see, so we've been going for like almost an hour. Over an hour actually, right? Let me see. Yeah, roughly that amount of time. So I think this is good for this episode. FE1 was by far the most that we had to tier. So now that we're through that, let me give you guys a preview of what we're doing next, right? So these are all characters that were submitted and we're not tiered yet. There were some characters submitted that were like FE12, for example. They're on FE12 only. So let me switch to the other games real quick. So next time we're gonna be doing FE3. Book 1 and Book 2 are just integrated in one list, as you can see over here. And I got it like this right now. I'm probably going to do some minor revisions, but just to give you an idea of what's on here right now and what's probably wrong as well. Same characters for the most part, but we're going to see how they change in FE3, which is a little bit of a different metagame. Then we have Shadow Dragon, which is a game I'm pretty familiar with, so I should be able to talk out of my butt a little bit more. But, you know, same characters, just see how they change in FE11. I did allude to a couple changes to characters, of course, already. But there you have it. And then finally we got FE12, and FE12 just has every single character under the sun and then some, because it has characters like Shima, for example, is here, and there was like a Katarina, for example, is new here. So we're gonna rate those characters based on their merits in those games. So that's what you got to look forward to. That's gonna be the Archanean special. I'll probably be able to do the next video in one go, although there are still a lot of characters, so maybe not. We'll see. But if I have to take 3 videos to do it, I don't care. I also don't care how many views this gets. Like generally I get a little less or about as much views on these as the Let's Plays, and honestly even if it got less, I don't care. It's just a way to thank my Patreons, and as a way to give people who appreciate these some background noise to listen to. I'm really glad to get back into this. When I quit the series, when I gave it a break, put it on break for a while. I was just kind of burnt out on spending so much time in the tier list maker and talking about units that I didn't really know a whole lot of. But I'm really happy to get back into it. I honestly really enjoyed recording this for like, even though it's been an hour since I started recording, if not more. It's been fun, and I'm planning to do more of these in the future. The next edition will probably start at the start of next month or so. I plan to give a clear deadline. Keep an eye on Twitter, because I did announce this one right there. I thought this one was nice for like the patrons that were already Patreons. But again, if you do want to join because you enjoy these so much, you want to see your characters tiered, go right ahead. And there's like a whole playlist of this kind of videos that you can watch if you really enjoyed this. So there's going to be enough for the rest of your life, probably. I hope you had as much fun as I did, and I will hopefully see you next time for the continuation of the Archanean special of the big tier list. Peace out and goodbye.